Konnichiwa. Today we're going to go back and cover that little bit of Alice that we skipped last week. And that's going to give us the opportunity to look at the te form plus wa and the te form plus mo and some other things too. So we're going to return to the point where Alice had just taken the marmalade jar off the shelf. Demo. Bin wa karappo datta. But the jar was empty. Kara means empty, and you can see it has the kanji for sky, which I guess is the biggest empty space in this world. Kara, empty, is the kara in karate, which is the art of fighting with empty hand, without any weapon. Karappo is a kind of strengthening of empty, meaning with nothing in it, it was completely empty. And karappo works as a noun. And generally speaking, if you don't know what kind of word a word is in Japanese, it's most likely to be a noun. Japanese is quite a noun-centered language because all the words that come in from other languages, like Chinese, of which there are a huge amount, and English and other languages too, come in as nouns. You can turn them into verbs by putting suru after them. You can turn them into adjectives with no and na, but fundamentally they're nouns. So it's always a good guess when you don't know what a word is that it's quite likely to be a noun. Karappo is a noun, empty. Demo bin wa karappo datta. However, the jar was empty. Alice wa karappo no bin de mo shita e otoshite wa warui to omotta. Here again, we're going to see some other uses of the te form. First of all, Alice wa karappo no bin de mo. Now de here is the te form of da, and mo, as we know, is the adjective inclusive, sister of wa, the adjective inclusive, non-logical topic marking particle. So, karappo no bin de mo. De, te form of de, so is it was an empty jar, and demo means even though it was an empty jar. Mo can be used to mean as much as. Ichiman en mo kakatta. It took as much as 10,000 yen, cost as much as 10,000 yen. De mo means something like as much as it was an empty jar, even though it was an empty jar. And I've done a video on these uses of mo that you may want to watch. And we also use this de mo form when asking for permission, don't we? Keiki wo tabete mo ii. Is it alright if I eat the cake? May I eat the cake? Literally, if I go as far as to eat the cake, will that be alright? Karappo no bin de mo shita e otoshite wa warui to omotta. Otosu means to drop. It's another one of our self-move, other-move pairs. Ochiru means to fall. That's self-move. The thing falls by itself. Otosu, which ends in su, according to the first law of self-move, other-move verbs. So it means drop. We don't drop ourselves, we drop something else. Shita e. Now, e, as we know, is the other targeting particle. It's very similar to ni, but the difference is that e tends to refer more to the direction something is moving than to its actual target. So in this particular case, shita ni otosu wouldn't be right. We're not saying that we're dropping it to a particular target, like table no shita, the under of the table, under the table. We're just dropping it downwards, dropping it in a downward direction. We don't even know what's down there. She did try looking and she couldn't see much. So dropping it in the direction of down. Shita e otosu. Now, shita e otoshite wa warui. Now here you see, we've just had te form plus mo. Now we have te form plus wa. And we know that mo and wa are the opposite twins. While mo is the additive including particle, wa is the subtractive excluding particle. So, while te mo means as much as, te wa means as little as. Now we tend to use de mo in positive contexts. If I do as much as this, will it be right? But we use te wa in negative, forbidding contexts. Don't even do as little as that. So we often say, te wa dame. Do that is no good. Do that is bad. In this case, it's very similar. Otoshi te wa warui. Even as little as dropping it would be bad. The point isn't really that dropping it is a small thing, or that eating the cake is a big thing. The point is that we can go as far as eating the cake, that's fine. But don't even think about dropping it. Otoshi te wa warui. Doing that is right out of the question. Very often this forbidding te wa is just contracted to cha. Now this pattern continues into other uses of te wa. For example, we can use te wa as a connector between two clauses, and it implies that the second clause is unwanted or negative. So we can say, ame ga futte wa koen ni ikenai. It's raining and we can't go to the park. Now as we know, te can connect two sentences, and if we just said, ame ga futte koen ni ikenai, we're saying it's raining and we can't go to the park. There's an implication that we can't go to the park because it's raining, but there's no suggestion of whether we're happy or unhappy with the result. Ame ga futte wa koen ni ikenai is indicating that the result is unpleasant or unwanted. And you can see that this does have its root in the restrictive quality of wa. For example, in English we might say, just because it's raining, we can't go to the park. And this is exactly what wa means, doesn't it? If we say pan wo tabeta, we are saying I ate bread. But if we say pan wa tabeta, that often implies I ate bread, but I didn't eat something else. Conversely, if we say pan wo tabanakatta, we are saying I didn't eat bread. If we say pan wa tabanakatta, we are often implying I didn't eat bread, but I did eat something else. So, ame ga futte wa koen ni ikenai originally could imply something like just because it's raining we can't go to the park, but now its implication is more unfortunately because it's raining we can't go to the park. Imoto to kenka shite wa haha ni shikarareta. Because I quarreled with my sister, I get scolded. And again, the wa in there indicates that this is a negative result. So it links two complete clauses with the indication that the second one follows as an unfortunate result from the first one. So this is a continuation of the negative implication of te wa. Te mo, on the other hand, when it links two sentences, doesn't indicate a negative result or a positive result. It indicates an unexpected or contrasting result to the first. So if we said, ame ga futte mo koen ni iku, we're saying, even though it's raining, we're going to the park. And you can see that this is essentially the same function as demo, which gets translated as but, quite correctly. Demo folds up whatever went before it into that de, which is the te form of da. So we're saying that all happened, and the mo then adds to it the but element, the even though as much as element. So we could also say ame ga furu demo koen ni iku, which means almost exactly the same as ame ga futte mo koen ni iku. The difference structurally is that in Amiga Furu, the demo only attaches to Furu, whereas in Amiga Furu demo, the de is wrapping up the whole of the last sentence. In practice, that gives us pretty much the same meaning. So let's just go back to that sentence in Alice and see how it's structured. It's a little more complex than it looks at first, but it's very easy to understand, and if we can understand it, it gives us the key to analyzing much more complex sentences which could give us trouble in the future. The core of the sentence is at the beginning and the end. The whole sentence is just telling us what Alice thought. So the core is Alice wa zero ga omotta. Now, the inside of the sentence consists of two topic comment structures. The first topic is, even though it's an empty bottle topic, and the comment on that is itself another topic comment structure. As for dropping it, that would be bad. And then the whole of this double topic comment structure is bundled up into that to. It really means we can treat the whole thing as a kind of quasi-noun. It's bundled up into that to and attributed to Alice as her thought. Now, of course, as we're actually reading or looking at Japanese, we don't think of as for or speaking of every time we see a topic comment statement, because as for in English is much weightier, much more cumbersome than the simple wa and mo in Japanese. So what do? Once again, as always, we don't translate it into English, except when we absolutely need to explain it or understand it. We take the Japanese as it is in itself, and that's how we learn Japanese as opposed to just learning about Japanese. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below and I will answer as usual. I'd like to thank my Gold Kokeshi patrons who make these videos possible, and all my patrons and supporters on YouTube and everywhere. これからもよろしくお願いします. Class dismissed.